Welcome back to Quick 60 Sports. Today I'm going to give you an update on another NFL trade that happened. Yesterday I gave you one with the Denver Broncos with Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers re-signing. Today was a move of desperation, it seemed, from the Washington Commanders, and they went ahead and got Carson Wentz. I had said that he and more than likely Jimmy G were the top two guys that were quarterbacks likely to sign. Also, Jameis Winston is up there as well, but he's a free agent. The Commanders, like I shared on my video yesterday, they offered 3 first-round picks for Russell Wilson, and the Seahawks declined. I don't think Russell Wilson would have agreed to go there anyway, but the Seahawks definitely didn't want Russell Wilson in the NFC. Let me just go on and say that right now. So they were desperate. They didn't want Taylor Heineke as their quarterback. They needed a quarterback, and so they went ahead and pulled the trigger on Carson Wentz. And the problem with this trade is that, along with Carson Wentz's injury history, is that the Commanders have to pay the whole contract of Carson Wentz, and it's hefty too. So the Colts get out of that. The Colts were actually probably going to cut Carson Wentz, just to be honest, just to get rid of the salary cap. The reports were that the Colts didn't like Carson Wentz's leadership abilities. He was frustrated. He couldn't really get going. And to make matters worse, it was just they were supposed to get a first-round pick from the Eagles if he only played, I think it was 75% of the snaps. And going into, I believe it was like week 7 or 8, they were right on the fringe of possibly making the playoffs, possibly not. And they were debating on just sitting him and riding out their next backup quarterback, just to be able to get that, first-round draft pick from Carson Wentz. But because he played over 70 to 75% of the snaps, they ended up not getting that first-round pick. I think it went to a second instead from the Eagles. And honestly, they still didn't even make the playoffs anyway last year. So they shot themselves in the foot. Things just weren't good in Indy as far as the quarterback situation goes. So they went ahead and traded him. The Colts get 22 third-round pick, a 2023 third, but it can become a second if Wentz plays more than 70% of the snaps, kind of like the same situation from the second to first that the Eagles offered the Colts back in the day last year. And also they get a 2022 second as well. So they got 2 thirds and a second, and the Commanders get Carson Wentz and a second as well. They swapped seconds basically. Now it'll be really interesting to see what offensive coordinator Scott Turner does with Carson Wentz. He has capabilities. You just have to keep him healthy. I mean, every time he wants to run the ball, he runs like a dang running back, and he's injury prone. I'm just going to go on and say it. But he does have some flashes of brightness and flashes of good things that could possibly come. He has great running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield, so that's good. He has some pretty good receivers in Terry McLaurin and company. So, he has viable options there. But honestly, guys, I mean, don't get too hyped if you're a Commanders fan. The Cowboys are still probably going to win that division and run away with it, to be honest. It's still not competitive, very competitive at all. So just wanted to give you an update on that trade. Stay tuned. In a couple of days, I'm going to give you an update on all the free agent moves and re-signings and contract restructures around the league as well. Last but not least, I'm going to touch on the MLB real quick, that they're really close to making a deal, but as of today, they didn't make a deal. There's still about 2 or 3 issues are at hand that they can't get resolved, and it's the second week, and they've canceled the second week of baseball season now officially, and now opening day is scheduled for April 14th. So mark your calendars. I think that's when they're going to have opening day, is April 14th. I'm fired up. I can't wait for that to happen. But the big issues at hand right now is still the CBT tax. They need to get that resolved. I think there's still about $25 million difference there. And a lot of that has to do with the bigger market clubs are willing to negotiate with the players union, but it's those smaller market teams like the Florida Marlins and the Padres and the Royals that they don't want to give that much money to a younger player. And so that's putting a lot of stress. And honestly, a lot of owners on both sides aren't even agreeing between owners, much less the players' unions and the owners. So they have a lot to get worked out with that. Also, the big issue they're trying to get resolved is the international draft. And so the owners want to have an international draft. The players' union do not want to have an international draft. So they're trying to get that resolved. And if you think about it, a lot of players, they're in the minor leagues at 14, 15 years old, playing in the Dominican League. And then all of a sudden, hey, they got skills. Why not pick up this guy and draft him when as an owner? And, I could pay him cheaper, and he's just as good as this guy that went to University of Texas. But this guy from University of Texas is 24. This guy's 17, 18. I'm going to pay the 17, 18-year-old a little cheaper who's got just as good at skills, and he has more upside because he's younger. So the players' union sees that as, not fair to the American baseball players. And so, they have to decide what's going to happen with that. A la Yu Darvish and company as well. They can just basically get paid millions of dollars and just decide what team they go to. So that's what they're trying to get settled with that. Also, there's been discussions that they want to have a lottery to try to avoid tanking. Tanking is going to happen no matter what. I'm just going to be honest. But they're going to try to avoid tanking with a lottery. Basically, if you are a big market team, once every, I think it was 5 or 10 years, that you can be in the top 10 in the lottery draft. But it's so hard to pick, a top 10 baseball player. The baseball drafts are one of the biggest variations of any major sport draft there is. And so, it's a little different than basketball as well. And so we'll see what happens with it. But right now, that's what they're going on. And I'll keep you updated. I think that there could be leverage as far as for the owners, and they can come to a compromise as with the international and the lottery. I don't think that's too big of an issue. The biggest issue is still the CBD tax. So, hopefully they can come to a compromise, maybe even $15 million each way and compromise, and let's get it going on April 14th. All right, guys. If you like my page, please subscribe down below. I appreciate the time. And I'll be back on tomorrow with another update. Until next time, peace.